Welcome back to the morning show. Jess and Chris right here on the Big Voice Southern Vermont. Let me get to the weather real quick, and then we'll get to our guest. Of election season, it's one of my favorite times of year.
Right.
And we've been having candidates on from the lieutenant governor race on the Democratic side, and now we have Meg Hansen from the Republican side. Hi, Meg.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks for spending some time with us because we talked. We've been talking to the other side. Now we'll talk to your side. So,
well, that's great. That's great.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and why you've decided to run for lieutenant governor, and then I'll jump in late, after you're done.
That sounds great. Thanks for this opportunity. My name is Meg Hanson, and I'm running to be the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor. Our primary election is on August 11th. So a little bit about myself. I was born in India. My family left when I was 7 months, and my family moved to a suburb of Dallas, Texas. I am a proud naturalized United States citizen, and Vermont has been my home for the last decade. I moved to the Upper Valley area. I'm not sure if you are aware, are sort of acquainted with that. It's just right on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont.
Oh, yeah.
About 10 years ago to attend graduate school at Dartmouth College. I have a medical degree for which I studied abroad. It is a British-style U.S. MD equivalent, though I don't practice medicine. But my professional expertise and engagement has been in the fields of healthcare policy, investigative reporting, again, within the healthcare field, and communications. I'd like to share with you and your listeners that when the COVID pandemic hit and Governor Scott asked for anybody who has medical experience to join the Vermont Medical Reserve Corps, I signed up that very day. And as a member of the Vermont Medical Reserve Corps, I've been serving. I've had the opportunity to serve at the SCMC, helping with COVID testing. So I feel especially connected to the Bennington community. I lived, as I said, I lived in Windsor. I actually met my now husband, at Dartmouth, and we began our Vermont story in Windsor. But about 2 years ago, we moved to Manchester in Bennington County. So we're on the same neck of the woods, kind of similar.
You are.
Right?
Nice.
So that's why, the SBMC is just the closest one. And as far as helping out with COVID testing and, being of service, I was really happy to be able to use my medical education and experience, to help people during this really unprecedented time. So just to continue a little more about my story, I led a health policy think tank until last year, and 5 years ago I founded my own communications firm. So I really understand the economic challenges of owning a small business in Vermont. And as you can see, I've had sort of diverse experiences. I sort of see them as interconnected. So my medical education, health policy experience, and being a small business owner in Vermont, I think all of them together, was the driving decision about really wanting to step into the political arena and advocate for a new future, something different from what we are experiencing right now. And I'll be happy to get into that a little bit later. But really at this time, at this moment, I think it's really important for us to have people in an office, elected officials, who are able to steer policies that will keep Vermonters healthy and safe. Mm-hmm. After all, we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and I have a comprehensive understanding of our hospital and health insurance laws and regulations, public health, economy, and so in that sense, I felt that I'm qualified and that I should really use my experience to be of service to Vermonters. So that's sort of why I decided to run and who I am. If you don't mind me, could I?
Absolutely. Go ahead. This is your time.
Great, thank you. So as I just said a little while ago, the reason, so the vision that I'm putting forward as part of our campaign, the theme is Small Towns, Big Hearts. And our vision is one of empowering Vermonters to be able to create prosperity in our lives for ourselves and our family. Right. And by prosperity, I don't mean just financial abundance. I just mean, being able to create the life that we want. And part of that of course, we are generally a middle class nation, and the dreams of a middle class, society is to be able to buy a home, to own property, to create wealth and save for retirement, to save money to be able to raise your children, put them through school and college. And so those are the aspirations, just a very natural, normal aspiration. Some people call it the American dream. And I'm in my mid-30s, so is my husband. And we really are at a place where we want to be able to buy a home. We want to be able to have children and do the things that a normal middle-class couple or family would want to do. But it's not only increasingly difficult, but it's nearly impossible right now in Vermont. And this is not just my story. I've seen this echoed, across. As we know, middle-class families, young people, working professionals, and even seniors have really abandoned Vermont. So, and this is sort of tied to basically our economy. So the three pillars on which this campaign is founded is economic freedom, healthcare freedom, and education freedom.
Right.
And when I talk about economic freedom, I'm talking about creating a pro-business climate that that allows for mom and pop shops and small to mid-sized and even large businesses to, if they are here, to be able to thrive and sustain and thrive, or if they're not here, to want to come here, for Vermont to be enticing. And of course, deregulating and diversifying the state's economy so that it's beyond just tourism and service. I think it's important for an economy that is robust and viable to actually create things. So to support manufacturing, creative enterprise, entrepreneurship, and business of all sizes. And then, as I said, healthcare freedom, which is at the heart of it, is to end the monopoly supporting regulations in our state's hospital and health insurance systems, as well as end rationing of health services that is taking place under something called the all-payer model, which has been in effect. And unfortunately, most Vermonters are not even aware of it, but it's sort of this new experiment, that the first of its kind in the nation, and that my investigations have, and I've written about it, I've published about it, and it has shown that it's led to rationing of healthcare in Vermont. That's something that we don't want at all. And the final thing is education freedom. And for me, that is being able to support parents who want to homeschool their children. Right now, with the pandemic, we've seen that so many parents, all parents, have been forced to homeschool. So I think giving subsidies or some sort of tax benefits to parents who want to be able to stay at home, and it's not just maybe the mom, maybe the dad, maybe the aunt, somebody wants to stay at home and homeschool the child. I think we should support that. We should support school choice, absolutely. I think it's important to give choice. Choice is always important, but also supporting post-secondary education in the trades. We saw recently what happened with the Vermont State College system and the proposal to shut down college campuses. And the VTC, the Vermont Technical Center in Randolph, was one of them. And that's, it's not just about a four-year a liberal arts education at Dartmouth. That could work for some people. Definitely I have a graduate degree in the humanities as well, so it could work for some people, but for some others, that's not the route. So I think it's important to have different avenues for different kinds of productive labor, and the trades is one part that we really should, I think, really invest in and show to our young people that is a great way to get wonderful skills and be a productive member of our society.
So,
yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but, I've been here 8 years in the state, and I find that because our constituency is so small, it's very hard to get anything up and running because of the economics of the state of Vermont. And I don't know how I don't know how you could fix that, because, you have the mindset of this small town mentality that nothing is going to work here.
No, what does that mean? Small town mentality, nothing's going to work here.
So I come from a big place. I'm from a big area. I come from
Where are you from?
The Chicagoland area. So when people want to do something, they get up, they get out of their house, and they go do it. and they make something of it. But here in Vermont, I have noticed over the last course of the time I've been here, people talk a good game, but never really go do it. So that's my question, it's like, how do you get that motivation into people to say, hey, go out and do it?
So I think that's a really good observation, and I think there's something to look into that, because the reason is, I wouldn't say that it's because it's a small town mentality. Absolutely not. I mean, Vermont was at one point really, really known for its rugged individualism, and not even taking any kind of federal relief when there was a flood. So it's not like and Vermont has always been about small towns. So I wouldn't call it that. I think there has to be more sort of in-depth understanding into what has caused the cynicism. I've seen that too, an apathy, a feeling of, what's the point of me doing anything because it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And I see that as a culture of despair. I see that as a real beating down of the spirit. And so what you're seeing is a symptom of that. But as I learned in medicine, I think it's important when you want to have a real lasting solution to identify the underlying cause, not just treat the symptom. What is the cause? And you're right, the economy is structurally weak. We have, in our state, the state government is the largest employer, followed by UVM, the health network, and then public school education, which are all state-run. So when you look at, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, I'm just saying that those are massively, majorly funded by taxpayers, and we've already talked about how the tax base is small. There are not a lot of people, and there's a demographic crisis.
Right.
So when you want to look at growth, when you want to look at, what you said about getting out there and doing something, would you agree that's something that we should look at in the private sector? When it comes to creative enterprise, entrepreneurship, the whole entrepreneurial spirit, right? Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
That's the place. But that's where we're not seeing that.
Right.
I think that so the main reason, if you want to just go into my history a little bit, the main reason why I actually got involved with politics is because when I was studying at Dartmouth College, which is in Hanover, right on the border, I was living in Windsor, in Vermont, and it was a 30-minute drive from my home to Dartmouth. And every day that I would drive, and I did this for 3 years, I would drive through downtown Windsor, which is, I don't know if you've been there, but it's economically, depressed.
Right.
There are empty storefronts, and you can see there's a lot of, as I talked about, the culture of despair, and you can see also the sort of the shadow of what was once a really robust manufacturing industrial town. So my question naturally was, why did this happen? Of course, the whole globalism thing was there, and, there was outsourcing of jobs, hollowing out of our industrial base to China, but and other nations where, the cost of labor is very cheap. But what my conclusion was that the policies that have been implemented in Montpelier over the last couple of decades, but especially the last decade, have made this happen, and I don't know that you will agree with that because you are a representative,
right?
And from the majority party, the supermajority party. But I really do believe that that the policies have been anti-economic growth.
Well, I agree with that, Meg. I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty much an independent guy, but to win in Bennington, I had to run as a Democrat. So
okay.
I'm just saying, okay. I agree with what you're saying. So anyway, we have to get to break. I would love to have you back on, okay? Maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'd love to have you back on. And then we could go into this further because you started to hit on some really good topics, and I would love to talk to you about it.
Sounds great.
All right, so how do people find you? If they want to know more about Meg Hanson, how do they find you?
Right, so you can find my website, Hansen, HansonForVermont.com. So I say that a lot because people are like, Hanson, so the spelling is Hansen for Vermont.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. Our Facebook page is the best place to get regular updates and stay in touch.
Okay, fantastic. You are a wealth of knowledge. I'm glad you took the time to talk with us and just to hear a different thought process on why you're running for lieutenant governor. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye. Well, there you have it. So that was a great part of our system, and I really enjoy the fact that we can hear both sides.
Absolutely.
So, all right, why don't we take a quick break? We'll be back with more of the morning show with Jess and Chris right here on the Big Voice of Southern Vermont.